Hey guys, Mac here of Bound for Nowhere. This is a second part to a 4-part series of videos documenting all of the gear that Owen and I brought with us to thru hike the John Muir Trail. In this video, Owen and I both are going to be taking you through all of the clothes that we used, why we brought them, as well as our experiences with them on trail. Hope you enjoy. The first thing that I brought with me is this Columbia OMNI-SHADE long sleeve shirt. I actually purchased it really shortly after getting drawn in the lottery system because I wanted to have the opportunity to get some experience with it before we actually got on trail. And I have to say, I've loved it since day one. It is a super functional shirt. It has a UPF rating of 40, so you know you're gonna be getting sun protection anytime that you have it on. And as a lady who feels really claustrophobic when I get hot, I was really impressed that no matter how hot the days got, I never felt like I was overheating in this shirt. It's got a ton of ventilation in it to keep you nice and comfortable no matter the temperature. And the fabric is super lightweight and wicking. And so anytime that I was getting really hot and sweating, it dried really quickly. Despite the fact that this shirt looks something less than new post-trail, I have to say it performs so well, and it is gonna be something that I'm gonna wear for a really long time to come. I also really love that if I wanted to, I do have the ability to roll the sleeves up using a button and clasp system right there. Before this gets a little too obvious, I have to say every single clothing item that I brought with me on trail, I'm a huge fan of. And this is no exception. This is the Patagonia CAPILENE KUHL Trail Tee. This is a new shirt in their line. I really like it because it is a classic t-shirt cut and it has a scoop on the bottom, so I never felt like it rode up even when I had my belt for my pack clasped around my waist. It was really wicking. It's got a very soft kind of brushed material to it or finish to it, and it made it really absorb all the moisture off my skin. I never felt like it would stay wet for very long, and it was crazy comfortable. I think that I'm gonna get a lot more of these because they're just great as basic shirts, but they're also technical. An additional note about this Patagonia tee, as well as the Columbia long sleeve, both of them have an antimicrobial finish, which is fun for just saying they won't smell bad even when you sweat in them day in and day out for 15 days straight, which was really nice. As far as all the clothing items that Owen and I brought with us on trail, we really only brought one of everything other than underwear, but we'll come back to that. So the one pair of shorts that I brought are these vintage Lululemon running shorts. And when I say vintage, I think they're about 8 years old. And these have been a longtime favorite of mine. And that's kind of the reason why I brought them. And I will say that one of the biggest things is the flat waistband. Having a flat waistband kind of prevents any chafing, especially when you have the added weight of your pack on your waist. To me, these shorts are the perfect length. They have a liner, which is really comfortable. And my only complaint about them was, well, I don't know if you can see, but there's a lot of pine sap from sitting in sap at various points on the trail. But my only complaint about them is that the inseam of them was bonded and it kind of gave up the ghost on about day 3. Granted, they're like 7 or 8 years old. Even after the bonding gave up on the inseam, they were still perfectly comfortable and I never had any problems with chafing, which was the one concern I had when this happened. I really debated about what I was gonna bring as far as pants are concerned, and I had 2 schools of thought. I was either gonna bring a more form-fitting yoga type pant because they've got a great range of motion, but then my one concern with that is the mosquitoes would be able to get me, no questions asked. And then the other type of pair of pants that I was thinking about bringing was a pair of climbing pants, and that is what I ended up with. And the reason why I chose to bring these pants, so these are an older pair of La Sportiva climbing pants that I've had and loved for a really long time. I brought them because the fabric is durable and thick. And that's good because the mosquitoes were unable to bite me through these pants. Regardless of how bad they were or how much bug spray I did or did not have on, my lower half was not getting bit when I had these pants on. I also loved the higher waistband because it brought it up above my belt line again, so I never had to worry about it rising up or sagging down while I was hiking in these pants. Oh, and to go back to the thick fabric, this was really nice because there was a lot of rock scrambling that happened due to lost trails and lingering snowpack. It was really nice to have a thick pair of pants because on numerous occasions I did post hole all the way up to my waist in some situations, and I never had to worry about scrapes or cuts or anything like that because I had some really protective pants on. Owen and I have been fans of the Arc'teryx, you know, whichever, I still love you. The Arc'teryx Atom LT hoodie for a really long time. This is actually my second one. It was the perfect layer to carry as a warm jacket in the summer in the Sierras. I found it was great to wear at camp when the bugs were really bad. I was able to wear it even when it was kind of warm and not overheat, but it was also perfect to wear in the morning when we were just getting on trail at 5:30 in the morning and it was still cold and frosty in a lot of situations. And it was the perfect layer, again, without overheating and staying warm when getting started in the morning. This is the Houdini pullover by Patagonia. I have had this thing and loved it for a really long time. It serves as the perfect middle layer jacket. It was great to put on as a windbreaker or even to layer on top of one of my shirts if I needed any extra sun protection in the middle of the day without having to worry about overheating. And the added bonus of this thing is it packs down to be so incredibly tiny, and it made it easy to store it on the outside of our pack and make it easy to grab in the event that we ever needed it. I grumbled on more than one occasion for bringing my Arc'teryx rain jacket, and we had no rain. I was complaining that I had carried it all this way, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, next day we got rain. I totally jinxed it. But our last day and a half to 2 days, we did have a fair bit of rain, and having a rain jacket really came in handy. It was nice to make sure that any of the clothes that I had on underneath it that I needed to be hiking in were staying dry, even when you're pretty much living outside. I carried 2 sets of underwear with me while I was on trail. The first set, being my personal favorite between the two, is this BRANWYN Essential Thong and Bralette set. They are a relatively new company, and everything is made of performance merino wool, which means everything is naturally odor resistant and wicking, all of which I found to be true when I was wearing it. I found that every time I put this stuff back on, I was really looking forward to it. What's really great about these 2 particular items is that neither one of them bagged out every single time I put them on and rinsed them. Because a lot of times over time, some of these things that have a little bit of stretch in them do tend to give out, but I never found that to be the case with these 2. Then the other set is an older Lululemon bra that I've had for a while. I really, really love it, but I did find that it was a higher impact bra than I really needed for the trail. And I found that as time went on, it would really start to dig into my shoulders under the weight of my pack. So I didn't particularly love it for this situation. And then the other one is this relatively new KUHL mesh thong. KUHL being the company, KUHL. I actually really liked it. It's super comfortable. It dried out really fast because of the mesh, but it did tend to bag out, not as much as it could, but it did get looser as time went on and eventually didn't really end up fitting all that well. And so that is why between the 2, I really did prefer the BRANWYN set. I carried 2 different pairs of socks with me while I was on trail. The first being a pair of Stance wool crew height socks, And the second, INJINJI ankle length socks. I'll start with this stance. Again, both of these are performance wool, and I am completely converted, I think, to performance wool after the John Muir Trail. These socks stayed really tight, really fitted. Around the tube and the foot, it really held onto my foot really nicely, and again, never bagged out in any way. Found these to be really comfortable, and I loved this height, particularly because a lot of times the trail was really overgrown with a lot of brush that otherwise could have been cutting up my shins and ankles, and having a little bit of protection higher was really nice to have. On the other days, I was wearing these INJINJI socks, which, as you may notice, are toe socks. These are really nice because I did have one blister come up in between two of my toes, and this was a really great way to separate the two toes in question without ever really having to wrap them. So this allowed the blister to heal without any issue. I will say I did wish that these were a little bit taller, but these are really comfortable, and they're also really nice to wear with bedrocks when we are around camp. I will say if I had to pick a favorite between the two, I think that I would pick the stance socks because I loved how form-fitting they stayed the entire time, the height of the sock, and how supportive they felt of my arch and the other parts of my feet that they covered. For hiking, I've always preferred to use trail runners versus a traditional hiking boot. The reason being is I just find them to be really heavy and bulky. In fact, here's a fun little statistic for you. This one is from Andrew Skirka's book. He mentions that moving weight that is on your feet requires 6 times more energy than moving weight that is on your back. For instance, if you are going to wear a 2-pound pair of shoes instead of a 4-pound pair of shoes, it is like moving 12 pounds of weight out of your pack. That's insane to me. These things only weigh 8.8 ounces a piece. They're incredibly comfortable. They've never required a break-in period. These are the La Sportiva Bushido 2s. I had the first pair, I loved them, I wanted a second pair, and I hiked every single mile on trail with them, and I love them. If you have watched even a single one of our videos, you might already know our deep and devoted love for BEDROCK sandals. We couldn't imagine doing this trail without bringing them along with us, even though we did not actually hike the trail in them. Reason being, there was an incredible amount of snow left on the trail, and so it was really important to us that we had full protection of our feet while on trail. But we did have a lot of water crossings, a lot of which we did in BEDROCK sandals. These are the CAIRN Pros and have the Vibram sole on the bottom, which holds really tight even in fast moving water. We also found that we wore them every single night at camp because it was really nice to give our feet a chance to take a break from the shoes and dry out after being wet all day. And let's be real, it always felt like my feet were coming home at the end of the day. Every time my feet went into these. The last 2 clothing items that I brought and used every single day is this wide-brimmed hat, which was hand-me-down from my grandfather, as well as this bandana. Between the two, they served as great sun protection, this for my neck, this for my face and my neck. And then I also, anytime we were crossing a creek or stream, a lot of times would wet this bandana down and put it around my neck just to bring my body temperature back down just a little bit. Oh, and this is my lucky charm, as a hand-me-down from my mom from when she was a teenager and did Outward Bound.
For the most part, Mac and I carried the same clothes, so I'll try not to be too redundant. I also carried the Columbia and Patagonia shirts, the Houdini jacket, Arc'teryx Atom jacket, the La Sportiva trail runners, and BEDROCK sandals. And I have similar sentiments about all of them. I carried a pair of Patagonia baggies for my shorts. I wore these every day and they performed fairly well. They're lined, so I intended to not wear them with underwear. Unfortunately, the scrunchy waistband became really uncomfortable with the backpack, so I did have to wear a pair of underwear to keep it from chafing and being painful in general. So in the future, I would probably find a different pair of shorts that was lined that had a flat waistband. I opted out of bringing full-fledged pants in favor of these base layer leggings for the JMT. My thought process was just that these would take up less space and weigh a lot less in my pack. I ended up using these around camp after the day of hiking, or I would put them under my shorts for cold mornings or when we were crossing snow and I needed some extra sun protection. While they did save weight and space, they did not protect me from mosquitoes. Would I bring them again? It's sort of a toss-up. I could really go either way. Since my original plan was to not wear underwear with my shorts, I only brought one pair. Well, that backfired, didn't it? In the end, it didn't really matter though, because my plan was to change into clean clothes after a day of hiking, and that didn't really happen because there were no clean clothes. We were filthy the whole time. The one pair I did bring was a pair of athletic SAXX boxer briefs, and they were perfectly fine. I have no complaints. I carried 2 pairs of stance socks with me on the trail. I got them just before we started, so I didn't really get a chance to test them out, which made me a little bit nervous, but they performed really well through all the punishment we put them through, and I can honestly say that they're the best socks I own. I've had this basic Patagonia rain jacket for a long time now, and it does its job okay. It's perfectly fine as long as there's not torrential rains. Since we hardly had any rain, it didn't really matter for us. We got really lucky with the weather, but in case you aren't so lucky, I would recommend getting something a little bit nicer than this one. I brought along this Patagonia trail running hat, and while I do love this hat, it was not the right hat for this trail. I wish I would have brought a wide brimmed hat to help protect my ears and my neck and, you know, just this whole area a little bit better from the sun. If I would have done that, I wouldn't have needed so much sunscreen, and I wouldn't have had to wear my buff so much, which I will get to here in a second. My solution to my ear and neck protection from the sun was to bring this buff along. I would just pull it over my head and then I would be protected, right? Well, sort of. After hiking all day, you would get very sweaty, and this thing absorbs all that sweat and it gets salty, and that saltiness would make it a little bit coarse, and it would start to chafe my neck and my ears and my face, and so that was pretty unpleasant. The solution to that was just to wash it in the creek every night, just to help get all that out, and then it would be okay. Again, bringing a wide brimmed hat would have saved me a lot of unpleasantness, but the buff still would serve its purpose even with that wide brim hat, because when you're crossing the snow fields, you're getting the sun reflecting off of the snow, and you can get some nasty sunburns without covering your face up.
Even though we didn't actually wash our clothes the entire time we were on trail, we did have a care routine. As Owen mentioned before, we did switch in and out of clothes from our daytime hiking to our evenings at camp. And that was our opportunity to rinse our clothes out in a nearby creek. We did that as a way to kind of just rinse out any of the salt or grime that we were picking up throughout the day. And then overnight, we would dry our clothes out with some 550 cord that we'd string up between 2 trees. We did this at every opportunity we could just to ensure that our clothes were at least somewhat cleaned when we put them back on the next opportunity. If things didn't completely dry out overnight, we had the ability to strap the extra clothes to the outside of our pack so they could dry out in the sun on our next day hike. So that covers all of the clothing that we brought with us on trail. All of the decisions that led to these particular items are all things that we learned from Andrew Skirka's Backpacker's Gear Guide, like mentioned in our previous video. Couldn't recommend it enough. In our next video, we're going to be taking you through all the food we brought on trail, and I think you'll be happy to hear Owen is going to be the one taking you through it all. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, all of the gear that we used will be listed in the description of this video below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you down the road.